Well, a ceasefire has been agreed upon between Israel and Hamas after almost 50 days of the war, in which we have seen a lot of casualties and global diplomatic standoff between several countries. Negotiations were underway. What does this ceasefire mean, and what is the future of Israel's war to eliminate the Hamas terror group? Joining us is Israel's ambassador to India, Ambassador Naor Gilon. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. To begin with, was this ceasefire necessary, and what are the terms of the ceasefire? What will we see over the next few days?
Yes, the ceasefire was necessary, not from our point of view, of course. It was a demand of the terror organization of Hamas, who was holding most of the kidnapped. And that's what they really wanted out of it. Because if you look even at the ratio of people that we will be releasing, we will be releasing 1 to 3 ratio. So for every kidnapped baby or woman, these are the main people who will be probably now around 50 people, the first, that's the expectation, the first group. And we will be releasing 150. If you remember the ratios of like the kidnapped of soldiers in the past, so you have much bigger, thousands to one. So you understand that the ceasefire is what Hamas wanted. And I think that why Hamas they want to regroup. We understand that. It's not a surprise. And they hope that it will create momentum and pressure on Israel probably not to continue our activities, because we are determined to get rid of Hamas in the ruling part of Gaza and eliminate as much as possible of the leadership and infrastructure. And also after the ceasefire, we will go back there to the mission.
The IDF is inside Gaza for days together. The operations are underway against the Hamas. But right behind us, there are images of these hostages who've been there for almost 50 days now. What is the situation of the hostages that you know so far? How many of them are there? And are there efforts to trace them now, or have you heard from Hamas on proof of life, or what's the situation of these hostages right now?
We unfortunately don't know, because there are multiple crimes against humanity. The first one is kidnapping civilians from the age of 9 months to the age of mid-80s from their homes. The other thing is that they never allowed anyone to visit them, not Red Cross, not anyone, didn't give information. That's why there is a slight delay also now, of another day at least, because they didn't give the names yet. They admit, say that they don't have information about everyone. Not all are held by them. We don't know the situation of people. As you know, we found already 2 bodies. So four were released in two and two by Hamas. Then we were able to release by force another one, so it's 5, and 2 bodies of hostages were found. At least one of them for sure was alive, because they had a video of hers. So it's complicated. We don't know anything about it, and this is part of the pressure on the families. They're under tremendous pressure. They don't know if their loved ones get medicine. Some of them have medical issues that demand constant medicines. So they don't know that. They don't know if they're alive. They don't know if they're well. They don't know who will be released now in the first group. So psychologically, it's a very, very complicated situation for all of us, but especially for the families.
And there's a Thai lady who was in fact given a birth?
That's what we understand, that the Thai lady worker gave birth there during being in captivity. So, and we found a lot of evidence when we came now to the Shifa hospital, that and around it, the tunnels under it and everything. We found evidence. We found bags from Kibbutz Be'eri, from one of the places, one of the communities that were invaded. We saw a lot of some evidence to the fact that the kidnapped were there. So also the lady who gave birth, I guess, was somewhere in one of the hospitals or somewhere treated. Very, very complicated.
Well, what do you say in a world where nobody's believing you? There are these videos, as you mentioned, of the tunnels that are coming out under the Shifa hospital, under the Qatari building, etc., which clearly indicates that, Hamas was using patients, hospitals as human shield in this particular case for days together to attack Israel. And nobody in the UN, nobody outside seems to be believing these images. A lot of propaganda against Israel. How do you deal with it?
So First of all, I think there is a bigger problem in the world, which is beyond the problem of Israel. We live in an alternative reality, fake news way on, on TikTok or on social media. People, the question is not the reliability of the information, but how good is the video done, more or less, how catchy it is. And this is a problem, that there is a lot of misinformation, disinformation done here. The first one, the biggest one, was of course about the first hospital that they claimed that Israel bombed, and eventually they found out that it was a short-firing Islamic Jihad rocket that was aimed at Israeli population. So this is there all the time, all the time. I will say very frankly, first of all, many countries support us, governments support us. Demonstrations on the streets, of course, the numbers are never with Israel. We are 0.2 of the world population. The other side is a much bigger population, and there is a combination of somehow, ridiculous combinations like queer for Gaza. So you know what they do to gay people in Gaza. They threw them off rooftops. You cannot be openly or knowingly gay in Gaza. The only way for them to survive is to run away, run to Israel. That's many are running to Israel because they need to survive, And our resolve is there because we have no alternative. It's not that now, because there will be pressure, we will give our throats to be cut. No, we are fighting for our existence. If we are unable to eliminate Hamas as we decided, our future in West Asia is glim. It's glim because you cannot be weak in our region. You cannot be perceived as weak. You have to be a deterring power. That's the only way that as a small group, small minority, you can survive. And we are very much resolute. You speak to the soldiers, you hear the interviews. They all understand why they are there. And we have a conscription. Most of our army is civilians. Our professional army, military is very, very small. So all the people, both the conscription and both the reserves, if you speak to them, they want to stay there. They don't want to go. They are already 7-8 weeks there, and they say, no, we want to finish the job. They are very resolute because what happened is unimaginable. The atrocities and the things that were done there, and we can never get over that. We have to find the perpetrators and make sure they cannot do it again. So the world here, they can shout, they can do whatever they want, but we have to finish the job, because if not, we are not going to survive. And this is also a job for the world. Because at the end of the day, we have to understand that these organizations, like Muslim Brotherhood, Islamic Jihad, the ISIS type of organizations, they are not out of this world. They are dispersed. The American-led coalition killed many of them, dispersed them, sent them back to their places, put them in prisons, did many, many things. But the ideology is burning inside in these people. And if there will be a feeling that they have, this medium-sized organization has beaten on October 7, in this, perception, has beaten the strongest military in the region, there will be a ripple effect. People will get inspired. It can be few people in a place in Europe, in South Asia, in US, I don't know where, in the region, which is one of the problems. These are also forces that are threatening the stability. In Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood were the opposition who took over in the Gulf countries, in our region. So I think that we are fighting here for a better cause, a bigger cause, but I'm not going that road. We are fighting for our survivability, and we cannot compromise on our survivability.
India hosted Ambassador Gilon, the G20 Virtual Leaders Summit, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi condemned terrorism on that platform. Recently, we also had the BRICS meeting, in which, of course, Gaza situation was discussed threadbare. Do you think the international community is trying to pressurize Israel into a ceasefire and end the war here? Or do you think that the international community needs to do more to tackle the menace of terrorism?
So I have to start with really thanking India, because India is consistent from day one, from the first tweet of Prime Minister Modi in the afternoon of October 7th. He condemned terror. And he was very consistent in Jaishankar in the BRICS, and along the way, they were very, very consistent in counterterrorism. There is no compromise on that from the Indian side. There are, like India, there are quite a few countries, I think, in the world that are supporting Israel, totally understand. Of course, everyone, including Israel, we want to minimize the human suffering and the casualties and the humanitarian, and to prevent a humanitarian crisis. We are working, investing a lot of it. We are risking our people by being more cautious about the way we operate in order not to hit civilians, and of course it exposes more Israeli soldiers. So all of that is clear, but there are a few countries. The US, listen to Biden, he says there is a mission and Israel will stop once the mission is accomplished, and this is eliminating the threat from Hamas, of course. There are many countries, I don't want to start naming too many, but you can look at the UK, you can look at Germany, many countries around the world that are, I think, out of the democratic world. Maybe many understand it. Of course, they have internal pressures because of the street demonstrations and coming out. You know, this is leadership. If you understand the bigger risk and the bigger picture, and you understand that you have to find a way to be a leader and not to be a populist and listen to the people in the streets that are, in my eyes, totally wrong and endangering the future of these countries with what might come there.
Well, what is the future of the Hamas terror group right now? And after the ceasefire really ends, how are you going to continue this war? Because already when the war cabinet was announced and there was a meeting, there was apparently a heated argument. And in fact, even the national security minister seems to say that if the war doesn't continue, I have nothing to do with the government. So what is the future of this war?
As I said, we set in the outset, before we started, the cabinet put two targets for the IDF: to eliminate Hamas ruling Gaza, their infrastructure and their leadership. And the other one was to return the kidnapped home. And we are going on these two in parallel. One is helping the other. We are now stopping because why did Hamas agree? Because they wanted the ceasefire because of the military pressure we are putting on them. So we have to put, when they are going to release, I don't know, 50, maybe a little bit more, but there will be still close to 200 people unaccounted for or still in captivity or whatever. So also from that point of view, the logic is to go on. But as I said before, we have to eliminate Hamas's leadership over or ruling over Gaza. We have to liberate Gaza from them. This is the only way for us to survive. So I think there is consensus in Israel. Also, if you saw the war cabinet, which includes also Gantz from the opposition who joined just now for the war, they all say very clearly, we are going to continue. There is no way anyone is going to stop us. The hope is to stop us, but we cannot stop, because if we stop, we are going to live in risk to the rest of our lives. And Hezbollah in the north that are operated by Iran, everyone is operated by Iran. I think this is also an important point to say. When you look at what's happening, you know, Iran is the head of the snake. Iran has in the Middle East, in West Asia, they has 4 armed wings that they are training, financing and equipping. And the 4 are, I'll start with Hezbollah, the closest in the north. Hezbollah are Shiites, and Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, announced himself or presented himself as the soldier in the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. So this is Shiites, flesh and blood of Iran, probably the closest to Iran. The second one is Hamas, who are Sunnis, a different group, but they have a joint target, elimination of Israel. So Hamas has no other target. It's not about a two-state solution or anything. From the river to the sea, elimination of Israel, this is exactly Hamas. And then you have the Houthis in Yemen, who are also Shiites, strongly connected to Iran. And you have the militias, the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria. It's the same groups. And all 4 of them are trying to engage Israel in different levels, different ways. So you understand they're all connected to Iran. You see the Iranian foreign minister immediately, the first week after October 7th, already went to Lebanon, met the heads of all the terror organizations there, and are continuing and are speaking, and also in the BRICS and every place in the UN, wherever they are, the Iranians there are leading the camp. And one has to understand also the problem. And if you try to understand why all of it is happening, part of the explanation for sure is the change in the last 3 years in West Asia. So from the Abraham Accords, from the time that the UAE and Bahrain and then Morocco joined, and now We were speaking and will hopefully also speak in the future to Saudi Arabia. There is like a new group of countries who are trying to improve the region, to make the lives of people better, to the I2U2 economic projects that are coming out of it, India, Israel, US, UAE, and now India presented in G20, the IMEC, the corridor, that sea and land corridor that will be from India to the Mediterranean through UAE or the Gulf countries, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Israel. So all of that, I think they wanted also to disrupt that, because they don't like when the moderate powers in the world unite to improve their lives. They want their own way of living. So it's a big challenge that we have here, but we are going to prevail. The only thing that we are asking the world, don't disturb us. Don't go for the fake news. There is suffering. There is always suffering in war. There is suffering on both sides in the war. But this is something that has to be done. We have to eradicate ISIS, Hamas. No one told the Americans or the international coalition, don't eradicate ISIS in Iraq and Syria. So, it has to be done for the benefit, for the well-being of the future of all of us.
Well, moving on from terrorism in Israel to terrorism in India. India is marking the 15th anniversary of the Mumbai 26/11 attacks. And we saw that in an attack which was launched from Pakistan, from Lashkar Toba, more than 300 innocents died, including American and Israeli national Jews as well. Israel has now unilaterally decided to designate and ban Lashkar Toba, the Pakistan-based terror organization. Why do you think this was important? And why do you think this was important 15 years after the attack at this important juncture?
So, we started the process a few months ago, before the October 7th. It was not connected to that at the time. I think that 26 November attack, Mumbai attack, was in the same magnitude of watershed event for the peoples, like 9/11 was for the Americans, and like October 7 was for the Israelis. So it's a game changer. You change your state of mind. You understand that something is not working. You have to change what you were doing so far, because it's becoming unbearable. And there are very similar elements, I think, between what they did in Mumbai and what they did, for example, with us in October 7th, going to terrorize. The idea is to terrorize the population, going to their homes, in their places of comfort, and terrorizing them. And most of the documentation we have is from the body cams of the terrorists. They put it onto social media. They wanted to terrorize us. That's why they did decapitation, rape, serial rape, and killing of families and children, very brutal, limbs cutting and everything, because they wanted to terrorize. And that's what they wanted to do to you exactly, and also kidnapped in both ways, although you were able to eliminate the kidnapping scenarios already on place, so they didn't take them any place else. So I think it's very, very similar. What we did now with Lashkar, we don't have any connection with Lashkar Toba. It's very far away. We don't have any connections with Pakistan. So it's far. It's not I'm not sure it's practical, but it's a very symbolic brotherhood. As you mentioned, the biggest community, by the way, after the Indians, that were the biggest, in vast majority of the dead on 26/11, was of course Jews and Israelis, 6 Israelis, I believe, and another 2 American Jews, so 8 altogether. And Chabad House was targeted. So, and it was the second place after the Leopold Cafe, I think, that they reached also chronologically. So it was a prime target to reach Chabad. I think on the way, we are in that together. We are in that together because they hate you, they hate us. So we felt that it's the right thing to do. It's more of a gesture. As I said, if we would, even before, if we would have had information about Lashkar Toba, someone training them, giving weapons, whatever, financing, we would share and do with you and do the utmost, and we do that all the time, to foil it, to go against it, because we are against terror wherever it is, regardless of this. Of course, now people are tying it because we asked for after 7th October, that Hamas will be put on the list of terror. And Hamas, by the way, is very practical here, because Khaled Mashal, if you remember, came on video very soon after the October 7 attack in Kerala, and he incited without any shame. So he came on video and told the people that gathered there, Indians from Kerala, he told them, go out to the streets and demonstrate to put pressure on the Gaza issue. So they are calling people to go and demonstrate. He said, prepare for jihad on Israel, but you know, when you prepare people for the set of mind of jihad, you don't know where it will go exactly. And he spoke about financing the resistance. So, you know, it's a terror financing too. And if you add Hamas into the terror list, probably all of these activities become illegal at the same minute that it happens. So I think it's a joint interest. At the end of the day, we appreciate a lot the support of India because it comes from, first of all, a significant, very significant player in the world arena. But beyond that, a country who suffered and fought terrorism for a very long time, like Israel. Both of us have been suffering terrorism. We speak about October 7 and we speak about 26/11, but we all had a lot of terrorism before and after. So it's not stopping, it's not going anywhere. It's there, it's part of our lives. And that's why it's very important that we cooperate together and work together. And Prime Minister Modi also spoke about it, that terror is global. And so we have to hold hands together and fight it together, because there is no chance if we will eliminate Hamas. If the world will not disturb us, we will eliminate their ability to live as a terror organization in Gaza, but a significant terror organization. But there is a bigger issue. As I said, there is the ripple effect. There are other people. There are, you know, we have to go after all these elements, and Israel cannot do it alone, of course, and most of them are not in our region. So the world has the reasonable people in the world have to work together to make sure that the non-reasonable people of the world don't kill us.
You've been speaking very prominently against terrorism, and by you I mean the Israelis. And Israel has, from years and decades together, ensured that there is justice. You know, speaking of Holocaust, speaking of Hamas, speaking of Hezbollah, and the wide array of terror attacks that have happened and targeted Israeli nationals. When we speak of 26/11 attacks, how do you feel that justice should be done? Because there's been a case that is underway in Pakistan that has been pending for time, for last 15 years, no headway at all. India has, of course, given conviction to Ajmal Kasab, and he has been hung. But the main conspirators and perpetrators and the heads of the terror organizations are living a luxurious life again in Pakistan. How do you think justice should be done?
So, I am not in the position to give advice to India. I can say what Israel did, and I'm sure you are aware of it. Israel famously from after the 72 attack on the Munich Olympics, killed our athletes there, Golda Meir, then Prime Minister, decided that we are going after the terrorists wherever they are. So that was the philosophy of Israel all along the years. Not only this case, they cannot have a quiet life wherever they are. Even if they are afraid to their lives and have to invest 50% of their energy in survivability, you already earned something good out of it. So that was our philosophy. Just last night they repeated it. The War Cabinet, the Prime Minister, Minister of Defense, and Gantz, Minister Gantz, they all reiterated that we are going after the perpetrators wherever they are. So we know them, Khaled Mashal, we know Abu Marzouk, we know all these people. It's not a secret, everyone knows, and they suggested, and I reiterate, that they invest more and more energy in surviving, because what was a safe haven and comfortable in Qatar or wherever it was will not continue being such. They cannot live their luxurious, rich lives, and they are all billionaires, they're all the leadership, and have their people suffer and pay the price. They don't care about the population. It's not only that they're using them as human shields on the ground, they are very cynical about it. I mean, Hillary Clinton said it very good. When people came, I saw her in a panel a few days ago, when people came and said, but you need a ceasefire. I said, but there was a ceasefire until October 7th. October 6th was a ceasefire. There was nothing. I mean, they pushed their people into the line of fire intentionally because they took here an action that is unforgivable. We had a lot of skirmishes with Hezbollah here and there, with Hamas here and there. But what they're doing here is a different story. It's not sting and go hide behind your population. It's give a bite that you cannot digest and we cannot digest. What happened here, the worst, you mentioned the Holocaust, the worst atrocity Jews had from the Holocaust, since the Holocaust. And we lost in one day, in a few hours, we lost in our Independence Day, in a war, 1% of our population. We lost 6,000 people out of 600,000 then of Jews in Israel. But we never had such a bloody day where people are butchered in their homes. So this has to be eliminated. There is no other way here.
Coming back to the 26/11 attack and Lashkar Toba, which has been banned by you and has been banned in India for some time now, do you think that Lashkar Toba has very close links with the Pakistani government and the Pakistani ISI? Because you've seen Lashkar Toba flourish and grow under the nose of the Pakistani government and the ISI and of course the army. And now also on the issue of Israel-Palestine, you see the Pakistani radicals and of course the government as well to a great extent supporting them against Israel. How do you react to that?
I'm not an expert on terrorism, especially not in this region. But the fact that people, 15 years after such a terrible, terrible attack on Mumbai, disrupting the lives of people, killing brutally, I cannot understand how someone can live safely in any place, any country that is enabling them to live safely. And there is so much evidence that came out of it. I remember the horror. I went last year India when it was in Security Council organized in the Taj Hotel in Mumbai, in the monument there. There was a conference about counterterrorism, financing terrorism, and there was an emotional event there, ceremony with Dr. Jay Shankar. And then I've visited already 2 or 3 times the Chabad house, where there is a monument on the top of the building with all the names. Also, you can see also they left the rooms of the family there, and of little Moshe, who is now 17. He was 2 years then. He was saved by his Indian nanny. The atrocities, you see how bad they are, and you understand that, and you had a lot of communication interceptions and everything. So everything is known there. These people cannot be living a free life anywhere in the world. That's the Israeli position on terrorism in general, and specifically when it comes to the perpetrators of 26/11.
One last question, Ambassador. Once the war continues after the ceasefire, what new reality will we see in Gaza? I saw this viral video where the areas that were occupied by the IDF from the Hamas control, you see Israeli flags all across the coastline and other areas, clearly reflecting that the Hamas has been eradicated from this place. Will that be the new reality in Gaza, or how do you see it? And secondly, are you confirming that Israel will, of course, go after the perpetrators and the commanders of the Hamas, not just in Gaza, but sitting anywhere in the world, including Qatar?
Yeah, first, it's important to say that we left Gaza in 2005. We evacuated more than 20 communities and 10,000 Israeli civilians, and we took them out, and we have no intentions of reconquering Gaza. This is not our attempt. Our only attempt or wish is to make sure that such atrocities will not be able to be executed from Gaza again. You will see probably in the southern part what you see in the northern part. The biggest problem we have, and that's why we asked people to evacuate, is that they are hiding under tunnels but behind civilian population, and they want us to kill civilians. Our interest as human beings, of course, is to avert from killing civilians. Their interest is, of course, to make us kill civilians, because they want to increase the pressure. They cannot deal with us fighting face to face. So the only thing they can do is sting us, this time a big bite, as I said, sting us and run behind the population and start crying victim, victim, victimhood, victim card, and hope that the world, and that's what happens always, by the way, will come and save them, the poor people, oppressed people. And so that's what we were trying to take out the population, and it's according to international law, that's what we have to do. We have to give them a fair warning and not to be in the line of fire. I think the same copy-paste will have to be done, because now they're hiding under and behind population in the southern part of Gaza. We knew that. We went very, very carefully and did it in a gradual way. And I think you will see the same. To your second half of the question, I reiterate, we will persecute, and as our leaders said yesterday in a press conference, none of them will be safe anywhere in the world anymore. That's our intention. They have to invest their energy rather than in killing others, in saving their own lives. And I hope they fail in this mission of saving their lives. They don't deserve to live. These people, you know, when you have an ideology, it's in your blood. The only way to take it out of the blood is to take the blood out of your body. Unfortunately, to drain the blood. These people will do anything to implement their ideology. And there is no way to convince them to discuss. This was the biggest failure of Israel. If you ask what happened here, and everyone is asking, what is the big failure? What happened? How did this such a strong intelligence services and everything failed on October 7th? Very simple. Not simple, but unfortunately, that's the reality. We wanted to think of Hamas, of someone who can be contained. We thought that we looked at them, we wanted to look at them in the eyes of our eyes, of human beings. And what is the dual containment we thought? One is military deterrence, and you see what we can do to them. You see that we are much more powerful. And the second one was improving the life of the Gazans. So we were investing 30,000 Gazans were going to Israel every day to work. Huge influx to the economy of money, good salaries from Israel and everything. And we thought that this way they have a motivation as leaders of Gaza not to attack Israel. And we convinced ourselves that that's their motivation. We didn't understand that ideology is there. They cannot accept Jews controlling any part of that region, and that's it. And they will go after it. So you cannot change them. They don't care about their own population. Will they care about my people? Of course they won't. So the only way with such people is to eliminate them. And that's what the Americans and the international coalition did, and that's what we have to do.
Including in Qatar?
I'm not saying including wherever they are. They shouldn't have a safe haven. Terrorists, that's why, as Prime Minister Modi said, we have to work together. Terrorists shouldn't have a safe haven. Because if they are comfortable somewhere, they have all their energy to spend and money and whatever resources on killing other people. And we have to make sure it doesn't happen.
All right, here's hoping, Ambassador, that the hostages are released soon and there is a just conclusion to the war in favor of Israel.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.